Hi, Justin. Thank you so much for being on the Emotional Eats podcast today.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Kim.
I'm excited to hear your story. But first, as someone who is a wellness advocate, you've been in business, you've been in science with all of this. What do you wish that women who are listening today will get out of our conversation?
Well, it's all about sleep and managing your cortisol. If you can solve those two elements, for which I have solutions for, your life will be significantly better and much, much more enjoyable.
Thank you. And ladies, I know you're listening, but this is something you probably want to share with your husbands too, because it's not just for women, what we're going to talk about today, right?
Correct. Correct. It's for everybody.
Well, Justin, you have a very personal journey. You have a background that really leads into what you've been working on now. And I would love for you to bring us up to speed from way before, and then all of a sudden cortisol was on your radar. And now you've written a book and you're doing podcasts and sharing all this information. So give us the backstory on this.
Absolutely. It's quite a while ago.
Mhm.
2014, 2015, I started a company called Elastin Skincare with my partner. And Elastin Skincare is now one of the top global medical grade skincare companies. And when we first started it, my partner had a real interest in endocrinology and was reading an article on an airplane about how in Europe they were using HGH, human growth hormone, to help speed up wounds and recovery. And so we started a skincare company kind of focused on that mantra. We ended up not doing that in the end because the doctors didn't like that from a systemic effect. And we pivoted towards peptides, companies to use peptides in skincare. And cut a long story short, as we were getting towards the end of that journey, we were asked to look at a alternative, a supplement for skincare. And I started taking a deep dive into the research of that and analyzing the market. And I came to the conclusion that I wasn't a fan of the supplement for skincare because consumers are so used to putting skincare topically, applying it topically, that I thought that the delivery system would be slightly awkward to market. However, I really liked the idea of a supplement, but I went back to our kind of hormone endocrinology roots and I was like, wow, let's have a look at what the market is doing. And at the time, we were also extremely fascinated with all the different peptides that people were consuming in order to generate longevity in their life, a better physique, and so forth. So we're looking at all the different peptides. And then something unusual happened. The FDA and the CDC reclassified all those peptides. I'm talking CJC Morelin, IPA Morelin, Sermorelin, all of those different peptides as biologics. And it changed kind of the landscape very quickly. So we kind of went down a pharmaceutical path and a supplement path. But as I was doing the research, I was absolutely completely enamored with cortisol. There was something about cortisol that registered with me that people weren't talking about. They were ignoring it. And they kind of put it into one bucket at the time, which was it's your stress hormone. It's as simple as that. And what I simply learned, and here's a bit of the aha moment, is that almost every molecule in the human body has a cortisol receptor. So when your cortisol is elevated, you feel it all over your body. Right? It's that body's alarm system. But what it turns out is that body's alarm system is actually the one that's wreaking havoc with our bodies today. Why? Because when cortisol is elevated and stays high, what it's doing is it disrupts our ability to fall asleep and disrupts our ability to stay asleep. We all know that, yeah, I'm stressed, I couldn't sleep last night. Well, here's the piece that kind of is logical, but we miss. We make our hormones in our sleep. That's it. We make all our hormones in our sleep, pretty much. And so if you don't get the 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep, your body is unable to naturally make the hormones you need to function the next day. Too many consecutive days, and you're on a downward spiral. And that's when you get brain fog, weight gain, muscle mass loss. You can't get the sleep. You have the energy. You can't kind of focus. You have anxiety. All the symptoms that we suffer from as a society have come to light very quickly over the past 30 years because of one reason. And that reason is cell phones and our technology. This has completely disrupted our natural circadian rhythm, which in turn disrupts our ability to make the hormones. No wonder why everyone and their mother is now on HRT. And there's nothing wrong with HRT. I am an HRT proponent. It's fabulous, right? But HRT does not control cortisol.
Can I take you
You
back to something you just said? Because I
sure.
really need you to repeat this because it is gold. What did you say about the cortisol receptors? And
Every
we have it
molecule
everywhere.
every molecule pretty much in
Okay.
the human body has a cortisol receptor. So when your cortisol is elevated, you feel it from your head to your toe. You feel it everywhere. It's that anxiety, that panic, however you want to describe it, because anxiety is slightly different than stress, right? But as from a medical perspective, that is. But as a kind of a human in today's world, we register it as anxiety, as panic, as urgency, all of that stuff, right? And if it's life threatening, then adrenaline kicks in, and that's the action hormone that makes us do superhuman things when we need to. But essentially, cortisol is a wonderful hormone. It's designed to regulate our blood sugar. It helps us with so many different wonderful things that help us function, but it only gets acknowledged as being the stress hormone. It's your fight or flight hormone. But cortisol is what you need to wake up in the morning and get energized and get clarity. And there's so many wonderful things. But as with everything, too much of it, not so good. And so we all need cortisol, right? I am a huge proponent for cortisol. We simply have too much. And that too much is putting us in this alerted state. And we don't know if it is an emergency situation or if it's a simple calendar notification, because every time the technology beeps or buzzes or what have you, we get that little, and we don't know what it is. And if you have kids, and the analogy I would use is when the school calls on your cell phone, you instantly panic because you don't know, is my kid safe? Has something happened, right? Is everything okay, right? We get that instant panic, that stress. That's what happens at a minuscule scale throughout the entire day with everything that happens in our world. And it's simply because technology has made content and information so available that we don't know how to turn off, which causes our cortisol to spike, our sleep to be interrupted, and our hormones not to be made naturally.
So before we get into sleep, let's park it on this situation with the phone and technology. So I understand what you're saying because everyone keeps their notifications on. There was a time when it's kind of funny because as we're speaking, my son literally in another place sent me a message and I started laughing when you said that because, you're always like, what's going on? Are they
Yeah.
okay? But here's what is really interesting to me. You're younger than I am, but I grew up with the phone attached to the wall and you had a cord and you had to go around the corner and we
Kim,
had to wait.
I'm 50.
Okay. I'm still 9 years older, but you've been there then, so you know that we would have to wait till we got home to make a
Yep.
phone call, and there was anticipation and waiting for the call, but right now, you said something so important. We are almost hyper connected to
Correct.
everything. We also feel like we, for some reason, I think there's a societal feel that we have to get back to everybody as soon as they text. We can't let it go and relax and come back to it when we're ready. And there are people I do know, by the way, that are so good at that. And my phone is never on the sound unless I absolutely know somebody's going to be getting in touch with me and I'm in the middle of something. But that is hyper connection. I'd love to know if you have any thoughts or any tips on people breaking free a little bit and stepping back from the phone. And we're also let's talk about doubling down on this. There, you're watching TV and you got your phone in front of you and the TV going at the same time. And it's on the side going off while I'm on the laptop. So any thoughts on how we can start to dial that back?
Lots, lots. I mean, that's really what my book Stress Nation is about. It's about how to escape the technology trap, right? But let's be honest, it's not going anywhere, right? We're not going to become Buddhist monks and live in the mountains and disconnect. Maybe a few people will, but for the majority of the population, it's not reality. Reality is the technology is here and it's only going to get faster and more intrusive into our lives. And so our company, Rebalance Health, is a supplement focused on helping you kind of take the edge off cortisol to keep you in those normal kind of ranges, along with tips and tricks that are in the book to support you with that. And it really comes down to, I hate to say it because, it gets a bad rap, this word, but it comes down to your ego. It comes down to what's important to you, because at the end of the day, Everyone would say, the wise people would say, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right? It all comes down to your health. Well, guess what? Technology is destroying your health, but yet it's everyone's lifeline to stay connected or to pay the bills or to do their work and what have you. So there's 101 excuses that you can put up to say why you can justify the technology. All right. So I grew up in the 70s and the 80s as well. And I used to remember 20 phone numbers in my head. I used to know the addresses of everybody. I used to make arrangements to meet people at locations to hang out, go to parties, or we do things. I was explaining to a colleague of mine this she's 28, and she's like, wait a minute, you used to just get in your car and drive up and down the high street? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we, she goes, but what was the point? I said, because we were with our friends and we were going slowly and we were having fun because we had a car and not everyone had a car. And it was a way of hanging out. And she goes, that just sounds so weird. And they don't get it. They don't understand the connection and the interaction or how to speak to the opposite sex, whether it's men to women or women to men. It's a dying art, right? Now it's swipe left, swipe right. There's something called intimacy, right? Not let's jump in and mess around right away. It's intimacy. Into me, you see intimacy. You build a relationship. You on a first date, a second date, you might have a kiss. You might go a little further, but you built up a relationship. We're mentally connected. Did you know that Hims was built off of selling erectile dysfunction medication to 20-year-olds? It wasn't the 40 and 50-year-olds. It's because the anxiety of having to perform without having that mental connection wasn't there, or because there's ADHD medication or marijuana or other substances involved, but they developed a multi-billion-dollar business off of selling ED to young kids discreetly through the mail because of performance anxiety, because they didn't know the person. And so that's an example of accelerating that process of intimacy and learning to connect with someone and kind of be really into them mentally before you get involved physically. These things are losing. We're losing these skills, these mindsets. And now with AI, it's rapidly deteriorating. People, their ability to use their brain and to think is rapidly eroding because AI is taking over so quickly. I mean, just go back 6 months ago, it wasn't really a conversation for the masses. Now today, everyone's using ChatGPT and Sora and everything else. And that's kind of what we're talking about. The pace of this world is moving so quickly that we have to acknowledge that as human beings, we have not evolved for thousands of years. We still need sleep. We still need food and water every 4 to 6 hours, right? We still need these fundamentals. AI and technology doesn't. It just keeps moving faster and faster and faster. And that causes so much stress and anxiety. And it's just disrupting what makes us human. We need sleep to recover, to restore, to heal so that we can get up the next day and do it again, but even better. And as that's being compromised and eroded every single day, we're actually destroying ourselves. And it sounds very doomsday, but it can be resolved. It can be fixed if you can put your ego to one side and go, okay, I have to turn this off. I need this time for me. I need to protect my sleep. It's like saying, should I eat all that cheesecake or should I have a piece of fruit? Should I have the hamburger or should I have the salad with protein? You know the right choice, but your ego tells you which one you really want to take at the moment. And so these tips and tricks are nothing that people don't already know, but maybe they just don't want to do it. And the idea behind Rebalance Health and Stress Nation is to explain the cause and effect, because I believe that's what's been missing from the conversation is the cause and effect. And when you realize how disruptive the technology is to the sleep, which enables you to make your hormones naturally, people go, that makes perfect sense. Why hasn't anyone explained it to me that way before?
I definitely want to get into sleep hygiene, but it's interesting because women who listen to this podcast also listen to my solos on emotional eating. And
Hmm.
it's all connected because scrolling on the phone is also a form of coping that people are using. And when they're not sleeping, they don't know what to turn to. So it's the easiest thing to open their phone and scroll. But I think also when we're not sleeping, in addition to just the high cortisol, we're not able to make good decisions. We're not even able to keep these habits or remember to do the things that we said we were going to do to keep that
Right.
sleep pattern. But I'd love to talk about
Sure.
sleep hygiene, not just right before bed.
Yep.
So that is important. And I was just laughing. The podcast that's coming out one or two before this one, I was just sharing with someone how lucky my husband is because I go to bed with an eye mask and earplugs and all the things. Like I am covered. Like, do not it's 9:30, don't even he actually calls me when he's on business trips. He will call me at 8:30 because he knows I'm starting to shut it all down. It's very funny. But it's not funny in a way because if it's not happening as a postmenopausal woman after going through perimenopause, menopause, we can get into the hormones. It is absolutely vital for me to have a good day. But let's start earlier in the day. What are things we obviously know that we have to have some kind of control over the electronics and the phone. What other things do you recommend that people maybe do throughout the day before they even get to that point where they really have to start locking things down?
Absolutely. So, for me, I highly suggest having the mindset that a good night's sleep starts the moment you wake up. Literally the moment you wake up. And so how you start your day is important. And it can look different for many different people in different ways and be equally as successful. So there's no perfect way of doing it. It's what works for you. And the best way is the one that you're going to stick to. The method and then the strategy that you're going to stick to is the best one for you. So for me, I wake up before the sun rises. And so if I was a later riser, I'd want to be outside in the sun first thing, right? Don't pick up your phone. That's the worst thing you can do. Like the first thing you do is picking up your phone is just fueling that dopamine. Really, you're searching for a dopamine hit, and it's dopamine doesn't satisfy you. And so you're constantly searching for the next, the next, the next. So it's really connecting with nature. And that's not being cheesy. I'm not a Buddhist monk. I'm not being a tree hugger. I'm actually talking about biology. Sunlight is really important. Grounding is really important. The sun helps increase your cortisol. You want an elevated cortisol in the morning. That's what gives you your get up and you go, gets you energized and gets your brain kind of focused and targeted on what you need to do for the day. So exercise is another wonderful thing to do early in the morning. It kind of sets you up for success and accelerates your cortisol levels. Again, we're talking natural levels, not in fight or flight, but you want higher levels in the morning, lower in the afternoon, and as little as possible at night. And getting an acceleration in the cortisol in the morning actually helps get that curve going, and it actually helps you come down faster in the afternoon so that you can get to low levels of cortisol at night. So there's strategies in getting that elevated cortisol higher in the morning, and nothing beats working out and sunlight. Simple as that. Wonderful. The other thing is food. And Kim, we haven't discussed food, so I hope I don't go
No,
against
I
your
want to
mentality.
just bring it on in. This is
So
you. What do you think?
yeah, no, it's not me actually, it's science. So it's been well documented and proven in many studies, and I'm extremely science-based. Our company is science-based, clinical studies, you name it. You can burn, basically when you wake up in the morning, you have about 20 to 30 minutes of glucose in your system to sustain your activities. After that, your body goes to the next available food source. Everyone thinks it's fat. Fat is not a readily available food source for your body. It's muscle. It takes you 3 minutes to start breaking down muscle and takes you about 4 hours to start breaking down fat. So you have to be mindful that when you wake up, especially if you're going to go work out, you need to put something in your body that's going to fuel you so you don't start burning off yesterday's gains at the gym. Very important. Intermittent fasting. Well, how long do you want to intermittent fast? If you've done it correctly and you've gone to bed around 9 o'clock at night, you should have finished in around 6 o'clock the day before. So if you're waking up, that's 12 hours. That's good. You don't need to fast anymore, people. Anything more, you risk breaking down the muscle that you so desperately need to keep as we get older. Desperately need to keep. And so it's about understanding calories in, calories out, understanding the best time to eat and what works for you. But working out on an empty stomach, really scientifically proven, not very good for you. You need to fuel your body. So that would be wonderful. 30 seconds on food, real simple. Know what you're putting in your body. For a week, track your calories, literally your macros, right? Track everything, right? Understand how many calories you consume in a day. And simple as this, eat less calories than you burn. It's really not rocket science. It's that straightforward. But to be able to be that detailed and to understand what you're putting in and acknowledge it, I went through this with my wife. We were cooking with way too much olive oil, and that was like another 600 calories that we didn't need, that we were over kind of inputting in our body. And so we like, oh yeah, we have to actually weigh out and understand exactly how much we're using and why. And so it's a very interesting exercise to go through and just recalibrate and go, wow, I didn't realize I was consuming 3,500 calories a day. I should only be doing 2 or 22 or whatever it's right for your body makeup. So calories in, calories out, eat healthy food. The rest of it's up to you. It doesn't really matter if it's paleo, vegetarian, keto. To me, what works for you and what you can stick to is best. Obviously, I'm a believer in balanced, food groups, fats, proteins, carbohydrates, fiber, all that rest of that stuff. In terms of exercise, lift weights and walk. Why? Well, if you run, you actually break down muscle. And as we get older, for osteoporosis, for muscle mass, everything, we need as much muscle as we can. And it's really hard to keep muscle on. It's extremely hard, especially as we start hitting perimenopause. We hit midlife for men, same thing. Very difficult to keep muscle on. Lifting weights. Now, you don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's extremely crazy scenario that everyone says, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. You can't. Try. You can't. It's very difficult and you have to be genetically blessed, right? But to lift weights, whatever it is, lift weights, strengthen your bones, strengthen your muscles by lifting weights and walking. Why walking? I'm a big proponent of about 10,000 steps a day or more. Why? Because it's low cardio, low impact. You actually break down fat, which is what everyone wants to break down. You're not breaking down the muscle. As soon as you pick it up a little bit, you start breaking down muscle and fat. And again, we want to keep as much muscle as we can. I'm a big proponent for cardiovascular health as well, but understand how your body has evolved from when it was a teenager in your 20s, right? We were invincible. We could bounce off the walls, off the ceilings. We were fine. We never broke a bone. We didn't pull muscles. When we healed the next day, we could do it again and again and again, whatever sport activity it was. We used to party all night in high school, right? In college, right? We could get up the next day. It was no big deal. Trust me, if I stay up
Yep.
at
Go to
9:30,
work.
exactly. Why? Because we had high levels of testosterone. We had high levels of HGH in our bodies naturally as we were evolving through puberty and becoming adults. And that stays in our system till mid-20s, early 30s. And then as you hit your 30s and you start heading to your 40s, you're like, oh, wow, I can't do what I used to. Things start changing. And there's nothing you can do to fight that. It's called aging. And so it's understanding the biology and how you need to augment your lifestyle to be able to accommodate for better recovery. So it's almost like the older we get, the more strict we have to become on how we live our life because we can't recover the way we used to. And we feel it. We're sore. Things that just take that much longer. Not to be depressive or anything like that. It's reality. And so I still work out every day and I can run a half marathon and I can do the things that I want to do, but I understand the cause and effect. If I don't go to bed at 8:30, 8:45, there's no way I'm waking up at 4:30 to go to the gym. There's just no way. It doesn't work. My body won't let me because I need that time to recover. And your body likes consistency. It likes a system. It likes a routine. When your body has a routine, your body feels safe. When your body's safe, your cortisol's low. When your body is unpredictable and can't predict what you're going to do to it next, your cortisol's higher and that disrupts your sleep. So being, as what we would say, boring and consistent is actually very healthy for you.
Well, I'm healthy then because I am boring and
Me too. I'm
consistent.
boring too.
I always say that when people say, Mike's out of town. What are you going to do? I'm like, go to bed early and read my book. Not hear any snoring. I love some things that you mentioned that I'd love to just hit on really quickly.
Please.
When you talked about the intermittent fasting, and you also just said a word that we use a lot, the women who are really struggling hormonally, not sleeping, who are trying to fast, their bodies do not feel safe. And there's so much going on. They're trying to eat less food. So, tracking, I love that you said that also because doing it for either reason, making sure you're eating enough food because some women feel they shouldn't be eating anything, they'll eat 1 or 2 meals a day but
Hmm.
they're really not getting enough, or they are over consuming it. Mike and I had the exact same thing that you talked about with your wife. It's the olive oil. Every
Yeah.
time I made eggs, I'm just pouring it in. not
Right.
even thinking about it. And then the next thing is sauteing vegetables, pouring it in. We did not really pay attention. And so about once a quarter, I take a couple weeks and just go through everything, make sure that because we also, our habits we can let something in and then it comes in a little bit more and a little more. And I could find the foods that were coming in a little too much. So thank you for mentioning that because I know that we don't want to over obsess also because that can also raise our cortisol when we're over obsessing, but we need to know the information because we can't make the changes. And the older women that I'm working with, they don't understand what you just said. As we get older, it is more of a struggle. And I found when I hit 55, that was between building muscle. I would love to bulk up, by the way, but that's not happening. You just have to work at it. We have to work a little harder. And I think we can still do what we did when we were younger. We can't eat the same amount and we can't get away with the things that we were doing to our microbiome before.
Yeah.
So I love everything you mentioned. And the last thing I want to touch upon, thank you so much for, in addition to the weights, bringing up walking, because I think, again, tying it back to cortisol, walking is great if you're trying to stay in, with weight maintenance or lose weight. But the processing of your emotions while you are walking in nature is so powerful. So I love that you brought that up.
Absolutely. It's a great way of grounding yourself, and it's amazing what it does to your psyche and calms you down. It's a wonderful activity to do, not just once, but multiple times throughout the day. We tend to sit too much. So even if you set a little alarm on your phone or at the top of the hour, you get up and you walk for 5 minutes. You walk around the block, go outside, get some sunlight, take your shoes off, put your feet in the ground, in the earth, get messy. That's the best thing for you. We are not meant to carry an electrical charge, but we do because the bottom of our shoes are all plastic and rubber. And so we are not in contact with the ground. And the second that we do, we release all that electric charge, completely neutralizes it. And that is wonderful for us as well.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on caffeine and alcohol?
What do you think? Your thoughts on caffeine and alcohol? Look, caffeine is fine, right? If you are a consistent caffeine drinker, believe that it doesn't do anything too crazy to your system. If you don't drink caffeine very often, you do, it will spike your cortisol. So you kind of build up a tolerance to it. You shouldn't live on it. If you have a cup every now and then, that's fine. But if you're living on it throughout the day, that's a sign you're not sleeping and you need to be charged. It's not a terrible thing, but it depends on how you're consuming it and what quantities. When it comes to alcohol, same thing. But the biggest thing with alcohol is that understand that it is not a sedative, it's a stimulant. And so if you have a glass of wine with dinner and then you go to bed, you're not going to stay asleep. You're going to wake up, because it's going to turn to sugar and stimulate your body, and you're going to wake up and you're going to go. And so that kind of leads into the second part of a conversation, which is timing. Okay. We're getting older. I am not proud to say that my bladder cannot hold as much as it used to. And so if I consume a lot of water at 6 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm planning to go to bed around 8:45, 9 o'clock, so I'm going to be woken up by my bladder. If I'm going to have a late dinner, I'm going to be woken up by my bladder. And so you have to acknowledge the fact that, yeah, there's a reason why we used to make fun of Granny and Grandpa that used to go out for dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They were very intelligent people, and they didn't have all the they just knew that it wouldn't work for them. They wanted to go to bed. And so it makes sense. So don't go to bed on a full stomach and fluids or alcohol, ideally. Why? Because you're going to wake up, you're going to use the bathroom, you're going to disrupt your sleep. The one thing you have to be maniacal for is 7 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Set yourself up for that success. Whether you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night or whether you go to bed at 7 o'clock at night, it doesn't matter. Make sure that you are going to be able to go to bed, stay asleep for that duration, because that gives your body the best ability to make the hormones you need naturally. And you'd be like, well, I'm a perimenopausal woman, I'm not making any anyway. Wrong. You are. You're making very little amount, but that's the amount your body needs to minimize your symptoms. And I know this because at Rebalance Health, we just completed a 331 woman study, blind, placebo, IRB backed, so pharmaceutical grade, everything that you would imagine from a drug company, we did for our supplements. And out of 331 women, we had a 97% success rate in reducing hot flashes and other perimenopausal symptoms by 80%. Okay.
It's a
And
lot.
that was because our product helped keep cortisol low at the right levels throughout the day and got it as low as possible at night. And we help you stay asleep for the 7 to 8 hours. And even some people would get, well, get 6 to 7 hours. Yeah, we're trying to get you to 7 to 8 because that's when your body makes the most amount naturally. So, what little estrogen, progesterone, testosterone that you are making, men and women, that's what's going to help keep your symptoms at bay. When you don't get that amount of sleep, you're not making that little amount of hormones, you're making significantly less. And so now your symptoms are exacerbated. Your hot flashes are intolerable. Your brain fog is out there. Your energy levels are low. Your anxiety is elevated. And it is the same for men. You talked early on, men go through andropause, the same thing. It starts earlier, mid-30s, goes through the 70s. So they get 40 years of this. Women have 7 to 14 years. And that's what makes all the symptoms exacerbated because it's condensed into a much shorter time frame. Whereas men, it's slowly. Look, men, we lose our hair, we gain weight, we we don't have the strength that we used to, we don't have the brain clarity that we used to. And yes, when your husband throws the covers off at night, he's having a mini hot flash, right? He won't ever acknowledge it, but yeah, he was hot and he blamed you, right? You made me hot, or you put the covers on. Yeah, he's having a mini hot flash, right? It's nowhere near the level of women. It's like a fraction of 1%, but he had one. And so men and women are very similar, but the extremes are different. Women go through them so much faster, even though 7 years, one would say, is not fast. In contrast to andropause, it's fast. And so everything is exacerbated. And so, yes, if we can get your cortisol lower naturally to the right levels, we get you to sleep, your hot flashes will go away. Your brain fog will come back. And not to be weird, but your libido comes back too. In other words, you start feeling like you again. And that's really what Rebalance is about because technology is not going away, right? We have to learn how to control it. But even then, we still need a little extra support. And that's what Rebalance is doing. It's a natural lozenge, tastes like a mint. You suck on it a couple of times throughout the day, take it like a cough sweet, like a cough drop for sore throat, and you just feel yourself becoming a lot more calmer. And you can still deal with the technology that you need to within reason and get on with your day. But the one thing you have to focus on, sleep. And that's what Rebalance is doing, is preparing you throughout the day so that by the time you go to bed and you take our dream product, you stay asleep.
I think that's the biggest complaint that I hear from women as a health coach is staying asleep, especially from about 45 until they are postmenopausal.
Right.
And even then, sometimes women are not have not worked it out because of the hormone balance. And I appreciate that. And thank you for the comments also on caffeine and alcohol. Before I stopped drinking, had you everyone falls asleep right away. I love how you explained it too as a stimulant because 2 o'clock in the morning on the dot, I'd be right up again and yeah, it was not worth it. Can you describe the connection also? Because women who are going through perimenopause as we're aging, even if people don't have big symptoms, most women are having that increase in visceral fat, insulin resistance. Can you connect cortisol for us with that inner
Absolutely.
tube that we're getting and also the insulin resistance?
Yeah, and men are the same, right? Men, we get the same thing. We get the love handles and the inner tube, as you say it, right? It's the same thing. Here's why. Cortisol is your body's alarm system. And if it's a true emergency, your body is allocating resources to what's needed. So if you're running from a bear or a burning building, do you need your metabolism? No. Do you need your libido? No. Your body is turning off those systems because it's not needed right now. And that's why cortisol in the elevated state, the alarm state, is designed for short bursts because it turns off systems in order to allocate resources to other systems where there's an emergency or a need. But when that alarm is going off all the time, it's turned off those systems completely. And it doesn't know when it's going to eat next, right? You could be, it doesn't know when the food's coming next. So it holds onto the fat, a energy source, because it doesn't know when it's going to eat next. You might be eating at the very moment, but if your cortisol is elevated, it's still turned off those systems. And that's the easiest way I can explain it.
I think that's great. But it all comes back. It all comes back to the cortisol. And we talked a lot about tips for the morning.
Yep.
Do you feel like running down just a couple evening ones? Because I know that we've heard a lot of this before. I think it's more of not just knowledge, but of doing. But if you could share a few of your favorite things, if somebody was like, okay, I'm not ready to do everything, what are like maybe the top three things that you would hope that people would do to settle in at night?
Sure. I can piggyback off what I said prior, which is your body needs to feel safe. When it's predictable and it feels safe, you feel at ease. Okay. It's kind of like when you're on vacation, the majority, not everybody, the majority of people can relax and unwind and they sleep like they've never slept before and they have more intimacy than they've ever had before with their partners, right? Because they're not in a high stress situation. So really think about setting yourself up for success by working backwards. What is the time you'd like to be in bed and work backwards? So try and have dinner at least 3 hours beforehand. Okay. I personally try and drink all my water before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Try and just consume because I want to drink a lot and hydrate. Okay. That doesn't mean I can't have a glass of water, but I'm not drinking, these big containers full of water throughout the entire day, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So I try and do a lot of that. I try to not be in a high stress situation. So I'm not a fan of horror movies or scary movies. I'm a bit of a wuss, right? I like feel good things, right? And so I'm not going to watch a horror movie before going to bed. That's going to spike my cortisol and keep it high. I'm not going to turn on the news before bed. I'm not. I don't want to. I'll take my news in the morning when my cortisol should be high. I don't want to hear about it at, 7 o'clock in the evening. It's just not going to be conducive to being in a relaxed state. Try to put yourself into a kind of like a spa-like setting. So I like to have a hot shower, right? I like to read a bit of a book. I don't want to turn on the TV within at least 90 minutes before going to bed, right? I want to stay away from blue light. And if you're not 100% sure what that means, screens and even light bulbs emit blue light. Blue light is the same frequency that comes from the sun. Remember we said in the morning, first thing you want to do is go get some sunlight because it helps your body create cortisol to get you going. Well, the last thing you want to do when you're trying to get ready for bed is saturate yourself with blue light and trick your body into thinking it's sunlight and release more cortisol. So it's the exact opposite. Yes, blue light glasses help, and, they definitely have been proven to be supportive and help protect you from that. But essentially, everything in the last hour or two in going to bed should be something that helps keep you calm, helps your body feel safe, and prepares you for bed. And then when you go to bed, go to bed. Okay, bed isn't for reading or for working or for doing things. Red is for intimacy and sleeping. That's it. It should be nothing but a joyful experience. Try not to watch TV in bed, computers in bed, cell phones in bed. Keep your cell phone in another room. Don't go to bed with it, from the electromagnetic frequencies to the beeps and the buzzing and all the other stuff that happens. Ideally, put it in another room so you don't reach over and grab it. If you can't sleep at 2 a.m. and start scrolling, get the cortisol stimulation, now you're not going back to bed, all right? That's just not going to happen. So it's all about making that space sacred. And then you talk about other sleep hygiene things like your temperature in the room. It should be nice and low, in the low 60s, right? Your body needs to cool down to go to sleep. It likes to drop its temperature. So burying yourself in lots of covers and getting yourself hot, it's not going to help you stay asleep. It's going to wake you up. Ideally, sleep in cotton, or even better, don't sleep in anything at all. That helps keep your body cool. Okay. Those are some simple tricks. I like listening to some, 429 megahertz frequency music when I go to bed as well. Anything that puts you in a really kind of restful state so you can fall asleep and stay asleep. And I wouldn't be a good CEO if I didn't promote Rebalance Health. Our products help you fall asleep and stay asleep. Most people say that they can fall asleep faster than they ever have in their life when they take our products, and they stay asleep and they get the sleep scores on their watch. Which reminds me, you can't really track your cortisol. Yes, you can do blood, urine, saliva tests, absolutely, but they're not very good benchmarks for kind of showing how your cortisol levels are reacting, because you don't control your cortisol levels. It's all responds based on external environmental factors, right? You can't control it. Sure, you can meditate, but if a fire alarm goes off in the middle of meditation, your cortisol's going up. Okay, so you cannot control it. Really, you can't. And so the way that I suggest that people track success is track your sleep, whether it's an Aura Ring, a Whoop, any device, anything that you have, and most people have them nowadays, and track your sleep. You want to track your REM and your deep sleep and see if that is getting good, consistent numbers and increasing in quality. And that's how I would track and how I recommend people track their cortisol is by their sleep. If your cortisol's high, your sleep's going to be terrible. If your cortisol's low, you should be doing wonderfully well with your sleep.
This is probably a dumb question because I've actually tracked my sleep, but I don't know anything about how much REM and deep sleep I should get. Is there a particular amount in that 8 hours that we should be getting?
Well, you go through light, deep, and REM multiple times, about 4 to 5 times their cycle. The first cycle is the longest cycle, and the last cycle is the shortest cycle. In general, you're looking for ideally somewhere around 90 minutes of deep sleep.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. So, we've talked about routines. We've talked about why this is happening with the cortisol. We have talked about food, exercise. You've hit so many sides of this, which I so appreciate. Do you feel like there is anything else that we have not hit upon? And we've also talked about the products that can help. What did I miss? What did I not ask you about that you want to share?
I want to be really romantic and cheesy. Okay.
Go for
I
it.
want to be really romantic and cheesy. I used to be highly stressed, trying to work, trying to make a living, trying to provide for the family and so forth. So did my wife. And we disconnected for a period of time, especially as the kids are younger and so forth. And as I've become wiser, at least I think I've become wiser, and I've learned what's important. Play has come back into life. And I think we need to learn to play more. And you take the word play however you'd like, but I take it in terms of having fun, flirting, teasing, being human and being childlike. It brings cortisol flooding down. And the dopamine hit that you get from that is significantly better than dopamine you get from your cell phone and scrolling the Eiffel Tower every day. And being romantic and fun and being cheesy and being playful, that's the kind of stuff that we need to get back to as human beings to replace the technology, and that the generation that is coming right behind us doesn't know about. So we have to lead by example and prove to our kids that mom and dad can still have a mud fight when we go into the park, and that we can roll around on the beach, and we can have a water balloon fight, or we can giggle and laugh and tickle each other. That's what I mean. Get back to that fundamental connection, that intimacy. That will bring cortisol crashing down, and I can't think of anything more fun and more enjoyable to replace technology with. And it's that humanness that I think we are missing, because we are so, like you said in the beginning, we have a screen here, a screen there, a screen there, and we're not even paying attention.
We are so serious. We really have
Yeah.
become very, very serious, and
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing that up. That is a beautiful way for us to close because human connection is the thing we don't want to lose, and it raises all the hormones, oxytocin, all of it, and I really appreciate that. And one of the things that I just talked to someone about recently was going by your husband, going by your boyfriend, girlfriend, your kids, and actually touching them
Yes.
as actually having that touch because we've gotten away from that also. We're all just moving in different directions. And I know we don't want to talk about the phone and being on it, but call somebody as opposed to texting them. Actually hear the voice, actually talk to them
Yes.
and have a real connection. But thank you for ending on such a beautiful, connecting human note. I
Yes.
appreciate it. And Justin, thank you so much. You brought so much education around cortisol today. You brought some really good solutions. I really want everyone to know more about the book. So please share the book. Is it out yet? Where can we get it?
I'm so excited. Yes, Stress Nation, here we go. You can find it on my website, which is stressnationbook.com. and there's links to all the bookstores that you can buy it from, Amazon and so forth. The reason I'm pointing you to the site versus Amazon is because I offer a couple of free courses, absolutely free. One is a perimenopause survival guide, and another one is a health reset guide, completely free, and it just helps give that away, that information away. It's available for pre-order today. It'll be nationwide in stores, airports across the country on September 16th.
Congratulations.
Thank you
That's
very much.
quite an accomplishment, and you're really helping people with it.
I hope so.
Also, where can people find you online so they can also connect if they would like to look at the Rebalance products?
Absolutely. Rebalancehealth.com. And let me give you a little moment on that. So Rebalance is a natural Ayurvedic and Chinese herb based supplement. It is completely started from scratch, doctor formulated, and it has ingredients like ashwagandha, maca, L-theanine, magnesium, zinc, you name it. All the good stuff is in there, but it's a mint lozenge. And it's been studied and it's been published in multiple medical journals, which I would venture to say we're probably one of the only supplement companies with that level of science and efficacy behind it, because I wanted to know that it worked, truly worked. Not just the ingredients that people claim. I've got all these studies. We actually tested the final product, and the product was actually named as one of Time Magazine's best inventions of 2024 because of the efficacy around it. It works, but you must also live a lifestyle that helps support low cortisol, right? You can't just sit on the couch, eat bonbons and ice cream all day, take the supplement and go, I have the lowest cortisol on the planet. It doesn't work that way. You still have to do and leverage the tips in the book and what we've spoken about on this podcast. But the supplements help. And we have one for perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. Same product, it's called Meno Mints. We have one for everybody called Mellow Mints. I give them to, even to my kids in college. They just kind of keeps them nice and even, level-headed. And then we have for men, Man Mints. And all of them bundled with Dream for nighttime sleep support. Again, all focused on keeping cortisol within normal, natural levels.
Between the book and supplements, people should be sleeping.
They
Justin,
should
thank
be.
you.
They
Thank you
should be.
so much for being here today. I appreciate everything that you've shared, and I wish you the best with the book.
Thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate it.
And everyone else listening, please nourish your entire life and give yourself grace today.